Yes, yes, yes. We stand up for hours sometimes. It's not a problem with me, but I just wanted this to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Well,
I'm sorry for all of this.
yeah.
I'm sorry again.
See again. I will tell you. Yeah, you farmer. Eh? So there's no problem. Eh? So Wale. So where
Okay.
are you? Where exactly are you in Nigeria?
Okay. I'm in Abeokuta, Ogun State
Okay.
at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, I'm in Abeokuta, Ogun State at the moment. Actually, to be honest, I'm not really on official assignment as I speak.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
actually came to visit my family,
Okay.
and where the residence is out of town. It's more or less in the
Okay.
rural area. So that's the reason.
Okay. So
but I'm based in Ibadan, so I juggle between Ibadan and Abeokuta.
Abeokuta. Okay, that's good.
Yes,
That's good. That's
but
good.
I travel around the state in the country. But
Yeah.
those are my bases.
Mm. Thank you for being here again. So, Wale, let's do this. See, tell my audience who you are and what you do.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. My name is Oyewole Okewole. Basically, someone with a lot of passion for agriculture. My undergraduate was done at Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, Osun State, Nigeria. I studied agricultural engineering. I finished with honors, and I proceeded for my master's degree at the University of Ibadan in crop processing and storage. My first degree was in agricultural engineering.
Okay.
And my second degree was in crop processing and storage as an option under agricultural engineering. And after that, I've had many other exposure trainings.
Yeah.
I've been developed trainings in sustainable food systems, project management, and many other training in agribusiness, value addition, and the likes.
Yeah.
And my principal primary portfolio, if I may use that word, is that I'm an agribusiness and agroindustrial specialist or consultant, as the case may be.
Okay.
And I've been in this journey since 2010.
Okay.
And so that makes it
12
years.
Years. 13 years. Wow.
Yes, 13 years going. And so I've played largely in the value addition processing sector, where people that want to develop micro, small, and perhaps medium scale agro-processing plants need project development experts for their operations activities, right from the ideation stage to the commissioning stage. So I've played largely in that space in the last 9 years. But 4 years ago, in addition to that, I realized that there are many challenges in the value addition that are not domiciled in the value addition space, especially the value addition value chain. So I realized that some of the problems are transferable from the production end, while others are transferable from the marketing, sales, and post-harvest storage and the like. So 2019, I took a more holistic approach to solving problems in value addition. And then that actually made me expand my horizon, to food systems, value chain analysis, inclusion, and more importantly, I began to see myself in managerial positions. Initially, it was more of technical.
Yeah.
And then now in managerial positions where challenges can be solved. We can sit in a place, develop ideas, as it were, some of those ideas developed into policies.
Yeah.
And I can see that usually agriculture is from bottom to top approach. And most of the time, because of the experience I've had with the farmers, I also, before I got admitted into the university for my undergraduate days, I've been a livestock farmer. I've done poultry, I've done snairy, I've done quails, I've done turkey, I've done maize, I've done cassava.
You are a farmer.
That was before I was 16. Before I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
So when I went to school and I did agricultural engineering, I got the value addition processing aspect of it. I had my master's there, and then of course I did a lot of project management too, and so that gave me a more holistic view. And then going forward, I've had many other trainings here in Nigeria, even in the US, and so I have with respect to my field, I have a more holistic approach to some of the challenges that I see in agriculture, especially in Nigeria and in Africa at large, because
Yeah.
Nigeria actually typifies a microcosm of most of the scenarios that we can see in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes, yes.
So that's it.
Wow. Wole, see your background and what you do, it's one of the major things we need, okay, in Africa, because I've been thinking. See, I come from a family of farmers. Okay, my uncles were big farmers. My maternal grandfather was a big when I say big, in terms of in the village, yes. In fact, my uncles own a big palm kernel farm.
Palm plantation.
Palm oil, yeah. My one of my uncles, the other one owned a big fruits farm. Okay. In fact, in the 80s, then New Nigerian Bank in Benin, came to my uncle's farm to photograph all the plants and the plantation for their calendar in the 80s. I think it was either 83 or 84. So yeah. So that will tell you how big the farms were,
I can just imagine that.
They died over nearly 20 years ago now. So my cousins, if they want, they can revive the farms, okay? So my why I let you know is that I come from a farming background myself. Even though my father was a teacher, I'm more like a teacher than my cousins. So I understand and appreciate what you guys do. Now, being a part of a 1.23 billion people continent, okay, we know that food security is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Food security is a big deal. So what at this time, what is the state of food security in Africa? And where do you think we are going, where we want to land in 10 to 20 years time?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a sad commentary, I must say. Yes, that in some quarters, and when I mean quarters, I mean some countries in sub-Saharan Africa and Africa as a whole, food security has degenerated over the years. And so we, to be honest, it's more or less that Africa is generally more food insecure than secure. As of today, 1 out of 5 people are hungry in Africa. Wow. They do not have access to food. And despite the horrible land blessings that God, nature has given to us, despite the huge potentials of feeding the world, Africa still imports, is a net importer of agricultural commodities. And last year, 2022, we still invested about $43 billion.
Wow.
To import agricultural commodities of different sorts and various kinds from outside the continent. And that is huge. If that amount of money, or let me say half of that amount of money, is reinvested into agriculture in Africa, I mean, that can be a lot of changes, in terms of the food security in the country. Excuse me, in the continent. So to answer your question, we have a problem at hand. People are getting hungry every day. 282 million people are going hungry today as I speak, and they are going to increase to over 350 million in the next 20 years. If this trend continues.
Yeah.
So a lot of money are being invested to import food. The problems, both macro and micro, exist, but not just exist, they are increasing. Climate change tops one of the problems that is existing. Population growth is increasing. Just mention 1.23 billion.
And that scares me. That's why I mentioned the population, because in 10, 20 years, the population is going to be 60% more. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And by 2015, it's going to double. It's going to double that. That number. So it's supposed to be a blessing, but if this trend, as far as food security is concerned, continues, I'm afraid it's going to be far away from being a blessing. Why? Because we have a young population.
Yes.
Passionate, intelligent, but needs to drive those virtues into the right.
It needs to be guided.
Right direction.
It needs to be guided.
Yes, absolutely, to be guided. And for me, among other things, I've realized that agriculture and agri-food system in general in Africa plays both foundational and primary basis for the continent's development. There's no two-way to it. Most of African countries are filled with arable lands, uncultivated, and we realize that, it's just a time bomb. It's a time bomb if these things are not properly harnessed. And so that brings into all the problems that makes it not to be properly harnessed. And so going back to the question, food insecurity is growing. We have problems including population growth, problems including climate change, problems including conflicts. But I'm not talking about continental conflict or inter-conflicts, intra-conflicts. Yes, intra-conflicts, and it's really killing a lot of. For example, let me give an example. Earlier last year, we went to a local community in Kogi State, and what we did was to there was an existing palm oil plant, but the palm oil plant had issues. So I worked with other team members to revive the palm oil plant, had additional equipment, commission it, and all that. And so there's another community nearby who are supposed to be saddled with the supply of the raw materials, the fresh fruit bunches. And I think there's a law, as it were, that when this plant is being revived, your community is going to supply, the fresh fruit bunches. And then while we were still there, still working on the machines, we realized that there were communal clashes. So we felt, okay, maybe there were other issues that, caused the clashes and all that. Or to realize that security agents came to stay with us right at the factory. And we're wondering, nobody is harassing us here. What is happening? Then I asked, because I led the team, and then I asked what was happening. And they told us that actually the communal clashes is because of the processing plant. And that the community, you see, that the community where the processing plant is are saying now that they have other sources, for their fresh fruit bunches, and they won't probably take the fresh fruit bunches from the other community. It's supposed to be a win-win. It's supposed to be a win-win situation. They supply raw materials, they get their money from there. Then they have the processing plant, they get their own resources from there. Now I understand there were oversight functions and all that, but what I'm trying to say is that, you see, that is just a community in the middle belt of the country in Kogi State. And this is a project that will benefit
everybody.
Everybody. In fact, it's a project that will benefit the entire state. Actually, it's quite huge. And so you can imagine, while we were still working, of course, they had to settle, cultural issues. History was behind the conflict and all that. They had to settle it. But I'm just saying, this is a project that should bring them together, and then promote exactly what is going to be promoted. So there are internal conflicts. And of course, I'm just saying this because this was my own experience.
This is one small one that you
see. So, and there are many, many like that. And so those internal conflicts will have to be resolved from the bottom to top. People, the traditional rulers, really have to sit down there, educate them about the potentials and the benefits of these things to the community. And so that's why education also plays a very crucial role.
Wow. See, conflict is a major issue.
Absolutely.
Big one. See, conflict is one of the, for me, top 5 issue that is holding Africa back. And most of these conflicts are based on history, okay? And until we all of us are community leaders, our politicians, our educational system decide, see, that's the word. We need to decide that we want to solve these issues. Okay, because for me, maybe I'm being naive. I think we haven't decided. And that's why we have been handling all these things like it doesn't matter. But it matters.
It does. Absolutely matters.
It's killing people. It's depriving communities of development.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Communities are the foundation of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that just came to mind as a result of conflicts. I've also been in communities where they work in harmony and they've had a blossom development.
Yeah,
you know, from agriculture. In fact, they have invited investors who are now, maximizing the productivity level, utilizing the farm, the rural dwellers as laborers, and some of them have actually gone to school from the output resources that came from those projects. So
very good.
But I know that if we have less and less of conflict, intra-conflicts, the development from agro-based development would have moved. As a matter of fact, agriculture at the rural community creates pathway for other developments. I know a community where just because they developed the agricultural sector, that community over the years had health centers, had schools, had infrastructure, more robust infrastructure facilities.
Yeah.
And before you know it, the children that came out of those communities are now coming back, to some of them actually went as far as studying abroad. They're actually coming back, to establish even more
things
more things.
Very good. Very important.
For the community.
Thank you for saying that. Now, going international, okay?
Yeah.
That affects food security in Africa. The Russia-Ukraine war. Okay. I know, like you mentioned, we import massive amount of food.
Yeah,
including wheat, okay, which Russia and Ukraine are top 5 exporters. Okay.
Yes.
Sunflower. Right. And even if we decide not to import food, but grow everything in Africa, we need fertilizer.
Yeah.
Again, which Russia is a major producer. So tell my audience the extent, okay, how the Russia-Ukraine war is affecting food security in Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Russia-Ukraine war is a macro factor, and it came just shortly after we were trying to revive ourselves from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
And so, now what happens is that when you don't have well-structured systems, when challenge is coming, they blow up the system easily. Yeah, because it's not strong in the foundation, it's not systemized, and so we have a little problem with the structure of the supply chain system for agricultural commodities and for many other commodities in Africa. And so when the Ukraine-Russia war came in, like you rightly mentioned, there are many agricultural commodities that is being supplied to Africa, bought from Ukraine, bought from Russia.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, wheat, sunflower, even maize, soybeans.
Okay.
You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Okay.
They're still imported, into the continent. Now, what happens is that when the war came in, there was a disruption in the supply. And so for a country like Nigeria that depends on that heavily consume bread, and bread has the major component of bread that we consume here is wheat flour.
Yeah.
And now wheat is not available, and then we had to look for other options of bringing in the wheat. And so what happens was that the prices of wheat went up. Consequently, the prices of bread went up. And people find it difficult to be able to afford it. And of course, the ones that could afford it, could only try to get as much as little they could afford. And that's, yes, because another thing that I would love to say here is that wheat is being grown in Nigeria.
Okay.
There's some agroecological factors, in some parts of Nigeria, precisely in the north, that accommodates wheat growth. But of course, it cannot be sufficient for the entire populace.
Yes.
And so years ago, the government came up with a policy of cassava flour inclusion, because Nigeria is a heavy cassava flour grower. As a matter of fact, we are the largest producer in the world. And so we came with an inclusion to substitute a percentage, with wheat flour, so that we can still consume the bread, but it will now include cassava flour.
Okay.
Now, the policy had issues. Many issues came up. I mean, I won't probably want to go into that, but at the end of the day, it didn't work. Not that it can't work, it can work.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I'm telling you this upfront, that for Nigeria, we really have to go back to revisit that policy. So it can work, but at the time it didn't work. And of course, that is where we are. As a matter of fact, some bakeries are being forced, something I call, they are being forced to use cassava flour.
Interesting.
At a very small quantity, with their wheat. This is not, the policy still exists. I mean, they didn't scrap the policy, but of course, it's not yet legalized. It's not, it's not legalized. Legalized is not the right word. It's not yet adopted.
Okay.
In the nation. So, but because of economic reasons, some of the bakeries, some of the confectionery factories are now using cassava flour, with wheat, so that they can stay in business.
Yeah.
They can be afloat. And while increasingly cassava snacks, cakes, and some of these other confectionaries are increasingly now they're using cassava flour. So what I'm saying in essence is that Ukraine-Russia war brought in food insecurity. As far as wheat is concerned, sunflower, maize, soybeans. Our own dependence in Nigeria, for example, of maize supply from outside the country is not in Russia. We depend more from Brazil for our maize supply. That is another problem entirely. We ought to produce our maize here. So, but I know East Africa, South Africa, and some parts of Sub-Saharan Africa depends heavily on Russia and Ukraine. Of course, including Nigeria. So it has affected first the price of bread.
So you were telling me that the conflict in Ukraine and Russia is impacting food security in Africa. And then you also mentioned that some of the issue we have in Nigeria in particular is based on the importation of food from South America. Especially Brazil, you said.
Brazil and many others. So, but largely, going back to the question, Russia and Ukraine's conflict is affecting Africa. But the solution, because I always look at the solutions and I always want to dwell with the solutions, is for Africans and African countries to look inwards and begin to heavily produced for export. Yes, because
okay, very good. Yeah,
this
export.
cannot
yes,
for exports. Yes, this cannot continue, and try to overcome all the internal challenges that we've had, and so that we can actually, as it were, compete. Not necessarily for countries outside, like outside the continent, but even for countries within, export to countries within the continent.
Yeah.
And that's why the AFTA agreement is going to play a pivotal role.
Yeah.
Where there could be free trade among African countries.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yes. Now, see, yes, I know there's a lot of debate about globalization, blah, blah, blah. See, looking at how progress have happened in the last 70 years, okay, compared to before, I would say that that globalization has it has been more positive than negative. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has been. See, if not for it, maybe me and you would not be existing. Yeah, that's the truth.
You're right. Right.
Because look at the population of Africa before. Okay. In fact, the whole world. Okay. Globalization allowed people to trade without fear of what are they called? People who take the pirates, yes, pirates on the sea, because hey, globalization has done a lot of good things. Okay, now when it comes to the displacement of internal manufacturing or producers, okay, yes, it has done that. Okay, now if we the countries of Africa work individually to find the products or the agricultural products that you are best at, and focus on it, and the next country does their own, and the next country does their own, and then the free trade agreement will allow us to trade within ourselves, and then anything else we can export. Okay,
I agree with you absolutely. It's not a question of independence or dependence. It's actually a question of interdependence.
Interdependence,
and and that should be the hallmark of African countries. And like you rightly said, I mean, each country has their own comparative advantage, and they need to uphold that. Of course, it doesn't mean they leave the others, but they need to uphold that and then maximize or optimize, as the case may be, the benefits throughout the entire value chain of each of those commodities.
But the truth is that no country can produce everything they want.
Of course. So
we need to trade.
We need to trade.
Focus on what you are good at and trade for the ones that you're not good at. That's it.
Absolutely.
Good. So I saw your recent post on LinkedIn where you talked about the need of for electrical power to help develop the agro industries. Okay.
Yes.
Please enlighten my audience on this crucial challenge of electricity.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a problem. And that post came from my recent experience here in Nigeria. And of course, over the years, I've had reasons, to discuss with principals that have small processing plants, and the operating cost exists, but energy, is a big part of that operating cost. And of course, this also came from Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah.
Because of the war, somehow it affected the cost of fueling, especially the gas oil called diesel here in Nigeria, because that is the principal product that powers the generating sets or that powers agro-industries. And so because the federal government removed subsidy, and then the prices of diesel shot up, and then it becomes increasingly difficult for agro-industrial principals to break even, as it were, or make the profit they would have expected. And so what happened is that I realized that there's a strategy that one can actually adopt, because I realized that a lot of diesel being used to power the processing plants just go to waste. What I mean by that is that the generating set, the central generating set, if it's a central one, capacity does not match the capacity of the processing plant. In other words, you have a very big generating set that consumes a lot of liters of diesel, you know, and it does not match your productivity. And
in terms of producing more energy than the plant needs, or below?
Yes. No, they produce more energy than the plant needs. And there's absolutely no problem about that if the plants can produce their final products that can handle the cost. But what happens is that the plant cannot handle the cost incurred by the diesel, by the generating set rather. And then the principals begin to wail, and we don't know where this is coming from, we don't know how to manage. And then critically looking into it, I realized that most of the power generated in the electric generating set are not being optimized. And so you consume so much diesel with less productivity output. So that was what made me write that post. There's a way they can schedule their electrical energy input in such a way to reduce diesel consumption while you maximize your processing plant operation, or you get a lower capacity. You know, a lot of principals from my experiences are very optimistic, and then it does get all of these gigantic things, and at the end of the day,
they can't use it.
They can't use it, or it doesn't match your production capacities. And so it's what I'm telling you, it's a big problem.
I understand.
a lot of processing plants have closed shop because of this at the micro, small, and small, medium scale level. So that was what made me. It's just I've been writing now on LinkedIn for about 4 years every week, and I write ideas, things that bother me, and that I believe can be solutions for people that read it, and so that was why I write that. I write majorly on agribusiness, food system, agro industries, personal development, project management, and such like.
See, what you are highlighted now is this. See, before any agribusiness setup, they need to evaluate the needs. Like you said, they overinflate what they think will happen, and they buy equipment based on that overinflated projection.
Yes, you're right.
And then if that projection doesn't happen, then they will be saddled with that cost.
And surprisingly, they've invested huge amount of money. It runs into millions of naira. And so for me, I do feasibility studies. I do a lot of feasibility studies. I tell them that this is the situation. You need this particular rate on your investment, then this is what you should do. And so it has been helping. A lot of them, what they do again is that they either do not do their due process, their feasibility studies, or they gave it to the wrong person. And of course, they did not envisage, all of these things. So because I also play in that sector, that part, that was what made me put that post out.
Now, that's fair enough that the the agribusiness is making those mistakes. But let's take it. Why are every individual business generating their own power? How long will we continue doing this?
It is really sad. For me, it's actually menace. People are generating their power independently.
Yeah.
And of course, because agri-industries rely heavily on power, and in Nigeria, for example, power has been an issue for over 50 to 60 years.
Exactly. And so the last time I had, when I was a young boy, in the late 70s, early 80s, was the last time I ever had consistent power.
And so sometimes there are some existing processing plants that, because of they bring power in their location, they primarily operate in the night, because that is when they bring power. But going back to the question, the solution is for the country to either give independent power projects for the states. Each state should develop their own power, because as it were, it's a central thing. And for me, that is wrong. So each state should develop their own power projects. And then, of course, I know the mini grids are coming up now to match the renewable energy with the national grid. That's a welcome development for me. So, but ultimately, it is the government, the oversight. Of course, individuals too are coming up now to have their own power projects.
Each state, local governments can do their own. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think for me, that is where we should be in the next 5 to 10 years. For me, I mean, it's that important. In the next 5 to 10 years, we should develop the foundation.
Any local government or state that is not clued to the potentials of their own business, their own people. See, we can't continue suffering at a national level because of what few people decide to do for the whole country of 200 million people.
100 million people. You're right. You're right. So they have to deregulate that sector, and then make it available. And of course, I mean, development, as much as I know that it destroys faster than being built, it can have accelerated growth when power, as far as agri-industry is concerned, the power is available. I can tell you for free.
It's not only agro. Every sector will boom once electricity power is available.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So I hope the necessary
policies and
policy makers and the organizations involved will. I know they are doing something. Really, I've attended quite some power conferences, and I know that some of the discussions and conversations are beyond words. They've come up with some of, I know, but beyond that, there should be primarily foundationally policies that deregulate power.
Yes, we need that. We need that in that country. See, we have the potential to be great.
Yeah,
we have the potential to be great. See, people can say anything, but what this world has shown me is that if you leave off again.
I'm sorry. I mean,
man,
I had to drive to town.
yeah. See, this is normal. It's what's going on. So that we're talking about. I was talking about something I can't even remember. Let's go. Let's go.
Let me remind you. We were talking about my LinkedIn post.
Yes. But I think we have finished that. Let's just go on for the next thing. Yes. I wanted to talk to you about something else. See, in the developed world, okay, agriculture, okay, maybe
I'm coming. Okay, I'm listening.
Farmers about 2% of the population. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a huge drop off in 100 years. Before nearly 100% were farmers. Now only about 2%. So, and the reason for that is because agriculture has been mechanized.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long do you think it will take us to mechanize agriculture to the extent that majority of us will not be whole and class farmers? It will now leave a large proportion of the population to engage in other things.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Talking about mechanization, there's a history behind it. Yes. To be honest, let me first of all answer the question straight on, then I give you the background behind it.
Okay.
If we continue this way, what do I mean by this way? What I mean by this way is if government still pays lip service, as it were, to agriculture, and they have stylishly taken their face away from the real important things. It's not even a question of when are we going to meet up to 2% farmers. Are we really going to meet up to it?
No, in fact, I don't think we need to meet 2%, but at least maybe
I understand
5-10%.
I understand.
Farmers, yeah.
When agriculture was the mainstay of the economy, especially speaking from Nigeria's perspective, about 60 years ago, tractorization, which is a major part of mechanization, tractorization simply means the use of tractors, to cultivate land and do all the farming operations. At the time, when agriculture was booming in Nigeria, at the time it was about 2 tractors per 1,000 hectares.
Okay.
And today, we are barely trying to meet up to 1.3 tractors.
Oh, so we have gone back. We have gone backwards.
You got it. to 1,000 hectares. And African agriculture and farming is the worst when it comes to mechanization and tractorization, to be precise, because somehow for Nigeria and for many other countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, they over the years discover other revenues, and then instead of them to complement whatever they have with the agriculture being that they've developed over time, they simply left agriculture. And for others, they were not just so serious, over the years. Whereas Asia, who had similar experiences at that time, now they are about 10, tractors per 1,000 hectares.
Exactly.
Mechanization in Asia has really gone so high. I mean, has moved beyond what even the landmarks, the indices for mechanization development are all about. Yeah. But Africa is a marvel, from the negative point of view, especially when we even have some of these interactions in conferences and some thought leadership sessions. Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible. And the truth is, we still have smallholder farmers who are feeding the entire continent. The entire continent are being fed by smallholder farmers, about 80% of. So what that means is that as far as food is concerned in Africa, production is concerned in Africa, there are still smallholders that is feeding the continent. And that's a big problem. It's a big problem because, okay, I'm listening. You want to say something?
I want to say that's basically why we import the majority of our food, because as our population increases, we should be increasing the the production of our agriculture.
Yeah, so we are reducing, and so that gap is being filled by
importation.
And it's not just about small holding. The problems are just multifaceted. These are the basic ones. Small holding farmers are in charge of producing food. Then the yield, productivity per hectare is extremely low.
So
apart from the fact that it is small holding, the yield, for example, maize in some parts of the world is about 4 tons, 3.5 tons that they get in 1 hectare. Here in Nigeria and some other African countries, it's less than 1.2, 1.3 tons in hectare. You see, on the same area cultivated around the world. So we have a situation in our hands where, apart from small holding, the yield is poor. Then the farming community, the demographics of farming community is shrinking. You see, the older generations who are into this, subsistence farming are dying, and some are literally losing interest in farming. And then the young ones and the youth ones.
Like I told you, my uncles are great farmers. Their children are not interested.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But because of, like I said, rural urban migration, development and all that, and there's no problem with that. But because also that the other challenges, that hard up to low productivity, has made the African continent a recipient of poor production.
Tell me.
Being fed, okay, I'm listening.
How much do we use fertilizer?
Yeah, well, it depends. It varies country by country. Specifics. That regulations and there are specific applications of fertilizer. Per hectare, So, but beyond that, it's not even about using the fertilizers.
Okay.
It's about appropriately using them. One.
Okay.
Two. Then having access. Some of the real farmers, do not have access to fertilizers, and some cannot afford it. And so the subsidy,
and that's why the yield is very low.
Yes. But beyond the fertilizer, there are also many modern farming practices that are not being utilized, and so they all add up to the low productivity. I also work with an NGO, a social enterprise to be precise, who also goes into training farmers, helping them with their farming operations, and then trying to help with the business of farming. Increase yield, understand the marketing, sales, and also explain to them the modern practices and how it should be done, so that they can actually get a higher yield, higher productivity, and then they can get more returns on their investment. So it all adds up, and these are the reasons why we have not moved beyond the small holding in Africa. But I must say this, as far as I know, in Nigeria, there are many strides, many interventions that are being utilized. Yes, more of it from the private sector and collaboration with the public sector. And I believe that I can speak of Nigeria, that things will get better in the next, in 3, 4, 5 years. I think
that's good to know.
Yes, the landscape and ecosystem will change.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Wow. So apart from these few things we've talked about, they are big deals. Okay. What other major challenges do you see in this space of agriculture in Africa?
The first thing that I would say is education. Find a lot of farmers are semi-illiterate or illiterate. And yes, and things are moving on very fast. Now we're talking about precision agriculture. We're talking about the infrastructure. They are trying to improve infrastructure so that there'll be network, internet, around where the farms are and all that. But the farmers itself, are they literate enough to manage? I was saying that education is very important. And so we have limited education of the farmers, and so it's a problem. Then, like I said earlier too, rural urban migration is also a problem. And of course, that depends on the infrastructural development of the rural areas.
Yes.
If they have all the amenities and there is agriculture growing, there is employment.
Yeah, they won't leave. Yeah,
they won't leave. And beyond that, they would probably even earn more than what they're looking for in the city.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
true.
And so it's a big problem in Africa, the rural urban migration, the education. And then another thing, like I said earlier, is training, because you cannot train someone who cannot interpret what you're saying.
Okay, that's true.
So it's one thing for you to know what they're saying, it's another thing for you to interpret. And beyond demonstration and all that, that interpretation, that training, it's useful to sustain what they have learned over time, and they can also pass it on to other generation and other generation. Those are the things that has been done in all the continents.
Yeah,
especially Asian. It has to be repeated here. Then another thing is we have to deal with the land tenure system.
Okay.
The lands available are quite small. It's difficult for a single person to just go and acquire so huge amount of land.
Yeah,
and of course that limitations will also bring about constraints in mechanization. And that's the reason why we have small holding in Africa so much in larger proportion. So if land tenures are being dealt with, then we might have more mechanization effectively taken off in Africa. So
indeed, this is a major issue we need to deal with.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So there are many others, but these are basically for me, the crucial ones, because it will also usher in more of the technologies, industrial revolution in agriculture.
Yes.
And of course, another problem. Yes, this is also very important: access to credit.
Oh yeah.
A lot of farmers do not have access to subsidies, credits that can really help them push into exactly what they want, and of course reproduce and then enlarge and make it big.
Okay.
And so
now let me say this: have our farmers today? Do our farmers today see farming as a business? Because before you can go out to start asking for credit, you need to see your
books
farming as a business to make money.
Yes, you're right. And that's exactly some of the things that some of the groups I belong to are doing right now. Many farmers I have not seen it as business, and so they just do things. They try to use family labor, and then there's really no proper document. There's no books, and so they cannot really say this is what is going in, this is what is coming out. And so that's a big problem. Farmers do not have the proper records, and so increasingly what we're doing now is to train farmers, like I said earlier on, so that they can actually say this is exactly what is happening, this is our productivity level, this is the yield that we're expecting, this is what we are getting at the moment, this is what we should get, and then what are we going to do to achieve that, and how can we continue to maintain that? Because the fact is that some of these credit facilities are available, but the farmers are not properly aligned to access those credits. And so it's a big problem because people are trying to train farmers, trying to develop their books over a period of time, because if you've not been doing that before, you still have to do it for at least a production season, a planting season. And so young guys are doing that, and they are trying to help farmers and understand that business, the business of agriculture. But beyond that, increasingly now, there's also campaigns all around to include youth inclusion, to include youths into farming. And so those youths, they are easy to train because of their background. Some of them have gone to school, so they can understand the dynamics in the business of farming and agriculture as a whole, agribusiness as a whole. And of course, they can also address some of these issues ab initio, so that there won't be problems, on the long run.
Wow. Well, see, talking to you, yes, we have a lot of challenge, a lot, okay? But then with challenges, for me, means opportunities.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have a lot of challenges and opportunities that our growing population will be the younger generation, if they feed into these challenges and opportunities, we have the potential of exploding the continent.
Yes,
see,
and harnessing
these
opportunities.
Yeah, I see this everywhere, in agriculture, in education, in technology, everywhere.
You're right. You are absolutely right. Africa is still a virgin land, I must confess to you. And virgin, quote and unquote, is not just restricted to agriculture.
Yeah,
everywhere. There are many other areas to be developed. And so I always say that if you discover your niche, if you found out your niche, then dig deep. Then you become so unique in that niche, and the whole world will come to check on you.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, man. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Now, apart from agriculture,
okay,
in your view, what are the other big concerns about Africa's development in the 21st century? And if you have any solution, hey, let's hear them.
Oof, that's a big one. Yeah, because I mean, if anybody will talk about this, they will come from different perspective.
Yes, of course.
But I will come from this perspective, and I mean every word of it. What I've observed as one of the major problems in Africa today is leadership. Yes, fine. We know the leadership comes from the followership, and so, but I want to say we've not had that motivated, driven, purposeful, and visionary leadership. Because it's one thing for you to sit on a gold mine, is another thing for you to mine it. Then it's another thing for you to add value.
Okay.
Now, most of the areas in Africa, agriculture, health, education, whatever, every area requires those three things. You have to sit on where the issues, the problems are. You have to be able to dig into it and find out these are the issues, these are the problems, these are the solutions. Then you must be able to mine it. In other words, bring those solutions into fore, bring them to bear to handle some of those problems, and then you have to add value.
Yeah.
You see, adding value is what refines it, is what makes it like the icing on the cake. And when you do that, every continent in the world passes through, one way or the other, these processes. Some continents are in the refining process, and so everybody wants to go there because they are refined. I mean, you just see, but the roots and the foundations in the 20s, in the 30s, in the 1940s, 50s, no, they're not ready to pay for that. So it is important for us to understand that you have, and believe me, Africa is sitting on resources, gold mine. So the issue of not identifying what the resources are is out of it. We know the resources. Now, the second thing is, are we mining it? Are we digging now to mine? Then are we mining as we should? Then are we adding value? So that those are where the problems are. The second problem that I see is education. I want to believe a lot of out of school of children in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, is quite huge. Yeah. And I don't know, we've failed in addressing the important things. Learning and education has moved beyond what some of us experience. Yeah. And so adapting to the new norm, instead of being trained to read and write, are they being trained? Their mind are being trained to develop solutions to problems. Now, there are two different things. You can be trained in the class for the regular addition, subtraction, English, and in addition to that, be trained to solve problems, outside. So African education
critical thinking is
exactly. Mm-hmm. So African education generally has failed to to really work in those critical thinking and ability to translate problems, interpret problems and solve those problems. Yeah. And so that failure has created a gap
Yeah.
And because youth do not have young minds, not get exposed to those kind of trainings, they either are miseducated or semi-literate or illiterate. And so it's easy for them to engage in many vices. We talked about internal conflicts the other time. I mean, it's because they do not have enough to be able to see through and think through. And so, so what we have is we have conflicts, and I will just let you know some of these internal conflicts that is affecting, negatively impacting development in Africa. They are being carried out by youths.
Yeah.
So we have issues about education not being trained. And like I said, the first one is leadership. You know, if we have right leadership, some of these things can be identified and over time can be worked on. So another problem that we have in Africa is it's a problem, but it's also, you know, an advantage. It depends on depending on how we harness it, is our population.
Yep.
I'm not an advocate of, I mean, reducing your population. No.
No.
What I'm trying to say is that the population we have, especially the young ones, they are a blessing to us. But because we've not handled, harnessed, guide some of these things to the right place, the population is gradually becoming a global menace. It's not just Africa.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that if we keep increasing and we're not harnessing what will take care of those numbers, we become a problem to the world. And the world will keep coming, it will keep helping, assisting, you know, these aids from here, from there. It will get a point that everybody will have to your tent, oh Israel. You know, you have to move back. No, that was what happened in COVID-19. That was what happened in COVID-19 pandemic. So at the end of the day, you know, it was just providence, if I may use that word, that didn't make COVID-19, I mean, get worse in Africa.
I absolutely agree with you. See, I was scared. Okay. I was scared. So I was thinking, what will happen? Because see, I understand. See, I grew up in Bariga. Okay.
Okay, Lagos.
Yeah, I know. See, I know my neighborhood. So I was scared. What might happen? And yes, if we don't develop simple processes across our communities, educate our youth to harness the opportunities presented to us by our environment. See, unfortunately, COVID-19 will happen again. Okay? And we must be ready. We really must be ready. You know? Anyway.
So let me just say, add to that. Like you said, I belong to some, I did some strategic foresight training, and I belong to some foresight futures thinking community. It's, I mean, COVID-19 came in, but I mean, it has been predicted. Of course, it wasn't predicted as COVID-19.
Yeah, of course.
It has been predicted that, I mean, the global pandemic, and like you said, many others will come up. Will come. And so, but I must say this, it's not just a gloom and a terrible situation. I know for sure in Nigeria, a lot of youths are actually taking the bull by the horn.
Okay.
They are trying, especially in agriculture, they are trying to do many things, train youths, social enterprise, people of my age or less, far less, you know, they're doing a lot. And of course, because it is an individual endeavor, an individual motivation, some of them stretch out to international communities for assistance and all that. But it's just like sprinkles, you know, in the ocean.
Yeah.
But it's some of them it's overwhelming. I must confess to you, a good number of them are like, wow, this thing is getting bigger than we can handle.
Yeah.
And it shows the opportunities. It shows the vast resources that we can enhance here. But that's just it. So that's another problem that I would say. So for Africa, if we can handle there are many others, but I mean, leadership, education, harnessing the youths, and of course, just because you said agriculture is out of it, agriculture is another tool that can develop, Africa. So for me, those are very important issues to deal with if we are going to develop in Africa.
Yeah. Well, what would you advise young Africans to help them to contribute their quota to develop their communities?
Let me thank you for that question. The first thing is you have to train your mind.
Yes.
Some of us, we learned that very late. And when I mean very late, if I got exposed to, for example, agriculture because my parents, had a small backyard farm where they had livestock. And then I took it upon myself because I just finished secondary school. I told them I was going to monitor it. And so I practically, nobody trained me. I practically read all the farm management practices from a book, several books actually. And then, I that developed me. So I was able to, earlier on, I said I was into poetry and all that.
Yeah.
I practically read for them, read for the management, and practice of them. And that was just before I even got into the university.
Yeah. Very good.
So that opened my mind into the things that we can do as young minds. So the first thing is that you should be able to look around you and identify problems. Now, when you identify problems, it's a beginning, and then you need to identify solutions. The truth is, many young ones do not want to identify problems, neither do they want to identify solutions, but they want to enjoy the solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, because the road is rough. It's really rough. So, but the truth is, if we don't do that, we are now having people outside the continent come in to do that for us.
Okay.
And so if we don't do that, it's just going to be a situation where your resources, your gift skills, supposedly, if you actually pass through the process, will be taken from you, and then you have to scrabble, for the crumbs at the end of the day. So young minds should develop their mind. Young people develop their mind, identify their passion. It's very important. I've always loved agriculture. So it could be education, it could be health, it could be business, it could be HR, it could be oil and gas, anything. Yeah, anything. So identify your passion and get a mentor, get someone that you can speak to, maybe not a mentor, but a guide who also is probably older than you, have more experience, lead you on, then learn how to read and write. And I'm not talking about schooling. Writing is a skill. Okay. And reading is a skill. So if you could, in the comfort of your room, for example, identify solutions and begin to write out. The world is a global village. Write out on social media. Somehow people will relate to the problems or solutions you're bringing in, and you might get an opportunity that will come to meet you. So if you can identify problems and if you can think about solutions, and then you can, the skill of reading and writing in the true sense of it, speaking and writing in the true sense of it. And I mean, if you do that, you become extremely relevant to your community. Many situations and circumstances that happen.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Go on.
So many situations and problems that occur in the community at the societal level, national, they have solutions. Many other nations have passed through that stages and they've had solutions. Some died in the process, but you have to understand that pathway and where it leads to. So young minds should be able to understand that this is their season. There is no future anywhere. This is the future. Yes, and they need to harness these skills. They sound so basic, but I'm telling you, if they are properly harnessed, they can be, not that they can be, they will eventually be a world changer in any field, any area, because Africans generally, we have a tough skin, generally. Yep. And that doggedness, that inspiration and motivation is there, but it remains dead if we are not ready to develop and do the work that I mentioned.
Yeah. Wow. See, I'm so happy the way you took this last question I asked you, because see, I've been struggling, fighting online to encourage young Africans to read. They don't want to read. They give you all manner of excuses why they don't read.
That's bad. That's really bad.
That's bad. They give you all manner of excuses. Why not? You know? So I was so happy you pushed about reading, writing.
It's important.
They don't know how important these things are.
I told you the other time that I've been writing every week for the past 4 years. I actually have a book on Amazon.
Very good.
Yeah,
what's the title?
Dare to Excel. It's actually about academic excellence and talking about the fact that, to become better academically, you need your own motivation and then you need God to help you. So I wrote that just about a year or 2 years after I graduated. I did well in my school. I finished as the best graduating student. I got so many awards and I got so motivated to write that book. I've written two other books after then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please. Dare to Excel. What else?
Then the other ones are timeless notes and articles.
Okay.
They are ebooks. They are free. The Dare to Excel on Amazon is not free, but the other ebooks, they are free. They're on my LinkedIn page.
Okay.
It's like a compendium of all the articles and notes that I've written over a specific period of time. So I have 2 volumes out. The 3rd volume will be out later this year.
Wow.
And I'm still going to write many, many other books.
Very good.
It's important that we read. I mean, there's this saying, I probably won't be able to quote it well, that if you want to hide something from an African, put it in the book. Okay. So I mean, that shouldn't be the case. And I have observed,
there's a reason that quote resonates with you and me, because we know it's true.
Yeah, it is. And I think the first time I came across that was when I was a little bit above 10. I think I was 11 or 12. And I said, why would they have to hide something in the book? Is it not book? I was so young.
Okay.
And I remember asking my parents that, and she said, well, that's the situation. And I discovered over the years that, honestly, people that really do great things, somehow, some way, are people of reading and writing. Readers. Now, let's even leave writing, reading as a primary skill. So honestly, I can't overemphasize that. I can't.
Okay, very good. So, Wole, we have come to the end of our discussion, but I have one final question for you.
Okay.
What's your vision for Africa in the next 20 to 30 years' time?
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yes.
Let me go straight. Let me hit the nail on the head. The first thing that I want in Africa is free of hunger. Nobody should wake up without food on the table.
Yeah.
So that is pregnant.
Yes.
Because if we can do that in the 54, or is it 53 or 54 countries in Africa, that everybody has food, then development begins. You do not necessarily have to exercise so much energy on what to eat. Now you think more about the solutions I was talking about. Because the problem is, if you cannot handle some of the basics of life, then your energy is being, what's the right word now? It's being diverted into making that happen. And then you might not be able to
do other things.
To do other things. And so, number one, I want an Africa that has no hunger, zero hunger. I want an Africa that has gotten their education right. And I wrote something about the future of African agriculture in one of my books, one of my notes. And I mentioned that one of the as far as I'm concerned, one of the areas that African can actually be the giant that it was meant to be and show the world the true sense of being a giant is in agriculture.
Yeah.
I mean, the other continents are doing great, very great. But in agriculture, Africa has latent opportunities. And so, and those opportunities are big enough to marvel the world. As a matter of fact, I hope you know that Nigeria can conveniently feed the entire West Africa.
If we decide to do it, we can do it.
So I look at Africa in the future, self-sustaining Africa, with no hunger, with perfect, well, as it were, education. And of course, I look at Africa in the near future where people from other continents can actually come here. You know, unlike what is happening now, the reverse, that people can actually come here to learn, to experience the energy, and then to develop right here and now. Yeah. And so that's what I look forward to.
Wow. Wole, thank you very much. See, I know the challenges we had with connectivity and all that. You having to travel out to town just to be here and to talk to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. See, talking to you gives me a lot of hope about African food security, agriculture in Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to talk to you today.
Thank you. Pleasure. It's a pleasure bringing. Yeah. It's a pleasure bringing me on. I really appreciate this.
Yeah. All right.
Deeply appreciate.
Take care, man. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah. Thank you.